Today I'm here to talk about my November reading update. So I'm going to talk about my TBR, what I plan on playing, watching, etc. If that all sounds good. Hope you stick around. I do have timestamps if you want to skip around this video. All that being said, let's get started. Now let's start by talking about my reading plans for the month of November. The first one I want to read is Shadows of Time by Christopher Ruocchio, the final book in the Sun Eater series. This should be coming out mid-month. I'm hoping to read it as close as possible to the release date and put out a video on the ending of the series. So I'm hoping I can fit in a review. It's really hard to schedule everything at year end, but I will do my best to read it and hopefully put out some meaningful thoughts. And again, I'm really excited to reading it. Regardless of review content, I think it's going to be a really good finale and I definitely hope it doesn't disappoint. Then to talk about some backlist books, I want to read Scythe by Neil Sucherman, and this is a story that is set in a future where people no longer naturally die. So instead there are those that are designated to select who will be killed and go on from there. The premise sounds really wonky, I'll be honest, but I have enjoyed a lot of this author's previous work when I was a lot younger. I used to read them when I was a teenager, books like Unwind, and so I definitely want to check this one out, see what all the hype is about, and hopefully really enjoy it as just a fun, easy read. I also want to read Stories of Your Life and Others by Ted Chiang, and this is a short story collection of speculative fiction. The main story that always gets discussed is the one that got turned into the movie of Arrival, and it is one that I've read before, but quite frankly, I read that one postpartum, and I've said many times on my channel that pretty much any book I read in those postpartum months, I pretty much need to reread because I was so sleep deprived that I was technically reading the words, but I wasn't fully enjoying a lot of what I was reading at that point in time. And I do think that a collection like this with a lot of really thoughtful stories within it would be better consumed when you can take your time and appreciate it without having to deal with sleep deprivation. So looking forward to returning back to this one, turning it into some kind of content on the channel. And I also want to read Shards of Honor by Louis McMaster Buchel, and this again is part of a long-running series that I've meant to check out for quite a while. I have read the one book, Free Falling, but I don't think that's technically the start of the series. I believe this is, so I really want to properly go through these books. And again, I've heard great things about the series overall. So many people recommend that I should be reading this author, and so I really need to, again, make this a priority, and hopefully, again, if I enjoy this one, continue on through the books that come after. And finally, for my backlist TBR, I also want to be reading, or rereading rather, The Hobbit and the 3 books in the Lord of the Rings series, or technically it's all one book. I always get comments in the section. I know it was supposed to be published as one book, but this is how it gets put out now in normal publication here where I live. So anyway, I have read all these before, but the reason I want to reread these now is the fact that I have been given word from my work that I will get an opportunity to travel to New Zealand. It'll be my first time there. Really looking forward to that. I'll share more details once the trip has happened because I don't want to give away specific dates, but it's coming in the next few months, and so I want to slowly start reading these books over the next coming months and just get all excited for the trip, even though I will definitely not get to see any of the actual Hobbit or Lord of the Rings sites. I have no time during this trip for actual personal visiting and all of that and seeing the countryside, but just being in the country where all the Lord of the Rings movies were made makes me really excited. Even if I just get to see some of that countryside from the plane, I'm looking forward to it, even if I spend most of my time there in conference halls. And that brings me to the patron books for this month. The first one is my seasonal pick, which I need to read because it is the last month of my official fall season, as I like to splice up my quarterly reading. And so I need to read Doors of Eden by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is one I'm actually really looking forward to. Of course, I've read a lot of his books. This is a science fiction story that I don't know a lot about. I feel like it's one of his less hyped ones, but I believe it's still very well received, well regarded. And so when it got selected for the fall season, I was looking forward to it. I just decided to wait until after Halloween was done to prioritize it in the month of November, but it's definitely top of the list now, and I will be reporting back how that goes. For October, as I mentioned, we read Only the Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. This was a reread for me, and always great to return back to this one. It is such a good piece of psychological horror. It has some gruesome moments. It is intense, and at the same time has this great commentary and cultural elements to it. It's one I appreciate more and more every time I read it, so highly recommend if you're a fan of his work and have not read that one yet. Highly recommend, and if you haven't, I do think it's a good place to start. His writing is not for everyone, but it's very representative of what you will get. If you read this book, you'll know what to expect from the rest of his backlist. And then for the month of November, our book club pick was A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I hope I said that right. This is another reread for me, but one I'm really looking forward to. This has been hyped all online. It was such a booktube darling when it first came out, this cozy space opera story. It's one I liked, and honestly I'm looking forward to it largely because I think in kind of the darker months of November, this time of year for me, it's really great to kind of have a story that's a little bit more cozy, comforting, rereading a book that I've enjoyed before. And I think it's going to create some really good conversation within the group, especially for those who haven't read it before, because I can't wait to see what everyone thinks about it. I like it. I don't think it's a perfect book. In my mind, it's not a 5-star read because I lean towards things with a little bit more plot, but still looking forward to returning to that one. I just think it's going to be a fun, quick read. And as for my watch plans, I want to at least start, I don't promise to finish in the month of November, but I want to at least start going through the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And this, of course, is a rewatch for me. I have seen them all before, but we do have the nice box set, and it is one that I do like to revisit. I am looking forward to going through the stories again. And honestly, I'm sure I won't finish them in November because we don't spend a lot of time watching movies, but I figure if we watch maybe the first one in November, and then over the holiday season around Christmas, we'll probably have a little bit more downtime with the snowy weather. So looking forward to getting these ones again as a lead up to my trip, kind of getting exciting seeing that countryside of New Zealand. So looking forward to diving into these ones. It's been a while since I watched them, so it's about time I come back to them again. And then as for video games, I'm currently doing a replay of Persona 5 Royal, which is a game I've talked about before on my channel. It's arguably the game that got me back into gaming. So this game is the reason I'm not reading as much as I used to. So blame this game because it is a really long game. Easily spend 100 hours in one playthrough, and I'm now replaying it again. So going back to the story, and it's a turn-based game with RPG sim life aspects to it, with scenes that are almost interspliced looking like anime. It's one where I just enjoy spending time with the characters. I find the fighting and combat to be easy on the story mode. So if anything, it's just really relaxing for me because again, I'm familiar with the story. I know how to get through the main combat areas, and it's just really fun to revisit. So in kind of my busier work season where we tend to get sick a lot, and again, it's just getting dark and cold outside, I definitely lean into my comfort medium and media, and so this is just exactly what I want to be playing right now. So future Rachel popping in, just because if I'm honest, the footage you watched was actually filmed a few weeks back. My October has been crazy with work and travel, and so I didn't know if I'd have another chance to sit down and film closer to the beginning of November. But I wanted to fill out this video largely because the original footage was pretty short, and I didn't have much of an update in terms of video games because in my mind I wouldn't be playing anything because again, I'm so busy with work. However, I forget that when I am home, one of my favorite ways to distress these days, besides obviously, again, reading, is also to play video games. And I've just gotten sucked into a new game, or a new to me game, in the way that I'm playing it for the first time. I talked about it previously on my channel, and that is Expedition 33. When I first talked about this, it was a game that my husband was playing and I was just watching. However, his interests have kind of moved on to other games. However, I wanted to see the story through, and because they updated the easiest mode to become more accessible for newbies like me, I am attempting to go through the playthrough. This is an RPG or role-playing game, very much inspired by Japanese style JRPGs. However, it's very much influenced by the creators who are French, and so in terms of the language, the music, the clothing, all of that, it's very stylistic, clearly making nods again to its French cultural heritage that is being pulled into this futuristic post-apocalyptic story, where it is set in a future where different individuals are sent off on these expeditions to try to save their world. A lot of the details of the story are all in the prologue, but honestly, I think it's best to experience yourself. If you're someone who loves moody, harrowing, emotional stories with great characters, again, great soundtracks, all of that, highly recommend. The reason I play video games is the same reason I read books, and that's because I'm always on the hunt for really good stories. And so while I'm only 3 hours into what I think is about a 30-hour playthrough, I'm in love with this game already and can't wait to see it through. Because I am so busy, I suspect that this will take me up to the Christmas holidays, so this will likely kind of fall into what I'll also be playing in the month of December. But highly recommend to anyone who has heard about this game and didn't really know if it was worth the hype. I personally say absolutely. I can't wait to see how it all comes together. I've heard the ending is fantastic, but of course I want to experience it for myself, and hopefully it lives up to my high expectations, because right now it's easily one of my top favorite games of all times. I haven't had this much fun playing a game in a while, and I'm obsessed. It's hard to do everything else in life when I'm this interested in a game, so hopefully take that as a good sign if you're looking to find a new game to fall into. So that's it for the video here. I'd love to know the things I talked about. What are you planning on checking out? What are you playing, watching, and reading in the month of November? Hope you're all doing well, staying warm wherever you are, and hopefully I will talk to you again soon with another video. Thanks, Kate. Bye-bye.